This is the Italian Real Estate Podcast, here to help you with the ins and outs and basics of Italian real estate, presented by ItalianRealEstateLawyers.com. Hello there, and welcome to another edition of the Italian Real Estate Podcast, presented by ItalianRealEstateLawyers.com. Of course, I'm Rafael Di Furia, back here again with Italian attorney Marco Permunian. How are you doing?
Good, how are you?
I am doing great, thank you. And today, we wanted to get into kind of asking the question, is inflation actually hitting Italy all that hard? Has the cost of living gone up? Have the prices of real estate gone up? How are things looking like in Italy currently? And so, Marco, I'm going to just jump straight into asking you that question. What are things looking like at this moment? Have there been major increases in the cost of living and the cost of apartments and property in general?
A lot of our clients, they're wondering, is it still a good time to buy a property in Italy? Is the cost of life much more expensive? And of course, inflation is something that is affecting many countries. So not only Italy or the US, but it's a phenomenon that is affecting many other countries in the world. And of course, prices have gone up in Italy, so the cost of life is higher. The prices for real estate are higher, but Italy is still very appealing, especially for a foreign buyer. So the prices, this inflation has affected, of course, many Italians because the cost of life is higher. Even if it doesn't affect Italy equally in all of its areas, but for a foreign buyer, Italy is still a very good market. There are people in America whose salary is 4 times, 5 times, 10 times of the average salary in Italy for the same position. So it goes without saying that for a person like that, Italy is still a very, very competitive market. Now, talking about real estate, we are witnessing a phenomenon where there is a limited number of properties available, and that has to do with a lot of factors. In Italy, people are building less. So a lot of people, they prefer to buy houses that are already ready. There is limited availability of spaces. So there is not a lot of space where you can build houses. So the number of houses has been the same for a number of years now, or pretty much the same, which means that the prices have gone up a little bit. Now, if before the global emergency, Italy was an extremely appealing market for a foreigner, now with this inflation, it's maybe a little bit less appealing, but still a lot appealing compared to other countries. And if you consider the cost of course, I have to say that in Italy, the prices vary enormously depending on the area that you take into consideration. But let's take into consideration the north of Italy. Now, the price per square meter is right now for a property that is ready to be sold, so a relatively new property that is not old, doesn't require renovation works. It's above, on average, 1,000 euros per square meter. If you are willing to do some renovation works, then you can find something that is slightly below or at 1,000 euros exactly, and that kind of property maybe does need some renovation works. But if you go towards the south of Italy, and prices are lower, and you can find easily properties that are ready to be used and ready to be sold, and that are in very good conditions at 1,000 euros per square meter, or even below that amount. So for an American buyer, Italy is still a very, very appealing country from a real estate prices standpoint. It's, like I said, it's not like before the pandemic hit, but still the prices are very good for an American buyer. Now, we've talked about buying a house. But let's talk for a second maybe about building a house. Now, building a house is much more expensive as of this moment in time than it was in the past. So while the situation with regard to buying a house that is already built hasn't changed enormously, well, building a house is much more expensive right now than it was before, even if it's less expensive than other countries like America or other countries like the UK. And the increased cost for building a house has to do with the global situation and the cost of the raw materials. So right now, to build in a residential area in a small town or mid-sized town in Italy, so I'm not talking about Milan or Florence. I'm talking about towns in the middle of a region, like in the middle of Veneto or in the middle of Lombardia. So let's say a normal residential area. If you have your piece of land and you want to build a house there, for a house there is maybe 250 square meters. So a normal house for a family of 4, maybe to 5 people. Right now, it will cost maybe over 400,000 or 500,000 euros. So if you have to build right now, it's quite expensive. So it might be easier to find something that is already built, and you're gonna have a much less expensive solution if you go that direction. But I have to say also that most of the foreign buyers that we come across, they want to buy something that is already built and ready to sell. They're not really interested in building a property in Italy, which is more common, of course, within the country. So it's more normal for an Italian to wanting to build their own house, which is now very expensive, than for a foreign buyer to want to build their house in Italy.
What about when it comes to renovations? Is that something where there's been a price increase as well, or does it feel kind of on par with where it was before?
That's a very good question. So the prices in general, we have said that they've gone up, but with regard to renovations, I feel like the prices have not gone up that much, so as one might expect. So it's still affordable to do renovation works, and it's still a smart choice in Italy to buy a piece of property that needs renovation works. Of course, like I said, prices have gone up. They've gone up everywhere in the world, but I want to say that this particular activity has not been affected that much by inflation.
That's really fascinating to hear about. And so far, you've mentioned a lot about like properties that you would purchase. What about rental properties? Have the prices changed there significantly?
Not significantly. So there has been a change, but I can't say that rentals have gone up significantly. Maybe there was a slight adjustment. Maybe it went up by, the average by 40 or 50 euros. But again, I can't say that I've seen this drastic change due to inflation. So it's still, I want to say, within the average that we've seen in the past years, with some slight changes that we've seen recently, but nothing major.
And so I guess that also leads me into the next question about the overall just cost of living, like buying groceries or the day-to-day things that you will have to purchase. How is it looking for both the kind of average Italian as well as the person from abroad who are wanting to make Italy their home or keep Italy as their home?
Now, with regard to the day-to-day life, I have to say I've seen an increase. So the inflation has definitely affected the lives of many Italians who can buy less products with their salaries now. So it's evident in Italy, but I believe in everywhere in the world or in many countries. It's tougher now to with your normal salary for the average Italian to buy everything that they want to buy because we've seen prices even in supermarkets. So I'm talking about food going up more than expected. We'll see if prices will normalize going forward. But for now, for the average Italian, at least, we have seen, yes, a significant increase. Now, if you're asking me if the average American will have problems in Italy even after the inflation? The answer is probably no. We all know that salaries, they're much higher in the US, and people tend to make a lot more money in the US just because that's how it is. So an American with the same job of an Italian will make a significantly higher amount of money. So it's still, I believe, a situation where it's definitely advisable for an American who want to retire in Italy or spend time in Italy to do so, because the cost of life here is still a fraction of what it is in America.
So that's really fascinating to think about that. While it's all about perspective, actually, that where you're coming from, where you're going to, that there can be these differences in the way that things look based on what you're earning, how you're earning, and where it's coming from in the currency even. And that for you, if you've grown up in Italy and you've experienced these things, then relatively to how things were a few years ago, then yes, you'll see that increase. But if you're coming from a part of the world, not even specifically the US, but just really anywhere that has a higher cost of living in general, you will see that things actually might be more affordable and how things could have been maybe a couple of decades ago. And to see how there are some realities, aspects of life that are more considerable when it comes to what you may be earning. I mean, I know there are people who move to different locations in Southern Europe looking at how low some of these things can really be when it comes to life, the cost of food, cost of an apartment, cost of home, whether you're buying or you're renting, whatever it may be. But would you say that there are any other aspects that would be important to look at when a person might be considering a move to Italy?
I briefly mentioned at the beginning of the video that the situation is different in the north of Italy compared to central Italy or southern Italy. And that, of course, is still true. So even if in general in the country we have seen certain prices or certain aspects of life becoming more expensive, there is still a significant difference between southern Italy and central and northern Italy. Where in southern Italy, prices they tend to be lower, including prices for real estate, rentals, cost of life, and they go up progressively as you move towards the north of Italy. So in central Italy, you can find prices that are in between the prices that you would find in southern Italy and in northern Italy. So ultimately, it depends on the area where you want to relocate, where you want to purchase your property or rent your property, and it's still more convenient to do so, to relocate or to purchase properties in southern Italy rather than in northern Italy. But like I said throughout the video, the situation in Italy is still very good for a foreign investor, for a foreign buyer, for somebody who wants to relocate from foreign countries like America or the UK to Italy, because the cost of life is less expensive than what it is in those countries. And the data speak clearly. There are still a lot of foreigners, especially Americans and British citizens, who are not only buying in Italy, but also relocating to Italy, who are applying for Italian citizenship, who are applying for an Italian retirement visa or the investor visa or other kinds of visas. So there is still a huge interest in relocating to Italy, in buying or renting in Italy. So, and I think that makes it clear that Italy is still a country that is very advantageous for somebody who comes from a different reality.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I mean, even what we were speaking a little bit before recording this episode that recently there were a number of articles that came out that were all alluding to many investors and bankers coming from the UK and looking at places like Milan and Rome, also thinking about how there could be even a potential surge in prices coming to Italy that they might be able to maximize on, and that they wanted to, and potential even market speculation that could be really interesting to look at for somebody who is thinking about making Italy their home or wanting to invest into the country and what's going on there. But I do think that this might be a great place to round out this episode. But of course, Marco, if anybody is needing assistance with relocating to Italy, finding their home in Italy, or anything that may be required for them to move forward with making Italy part of their life, how can they get in contact with you and your team?
people can contact us through our website, italianrealestatelawyers.com, or give us a call. The number is on the website.
Absolutely fantastic. And of course, if you're interested in more content like this, be sure that you're subscribed to this YouTube channel, as well as the audio-only version of the podcast that you can find of the Italian Real Estate Podcast. But you can also find this show on YouTube, as well as if you're subscribed to this channel, you're automatically subscribed to the Italian Citizenship Podcast, where we talk a bit more about how you can legally make Italy your home, getting citizenship, getting residency, getting all of these different things set up in your life that are very vital to making Italy part of your home. And of course, if you're interested in more content about life abroad, living abroad, or living abroad as a dual citizen expat, be sure to come over to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Rafael Di Furia, or you can find the audio-only version through a quick Google search for Not Your Average Globetrotter. Of course, though, I am Rafael Di Furia, and we've been here with Italian attorney Marco Permunian. Thank you so much again, Marco, for making yourself available. And also a big thanks to all of you for joining us for this episode of the Italian Real Estate Podcast presented by ItalianRealEstatelawyers.com. Stay safe and healthy out there. We'll see you all next time. Later.
Thank you.